And if you'll please rise, we'll say the pledge together. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Would you please call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Feasel is not with us this evening. Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes. Thank you. And I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our last regular meeting of October 15th.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you,
Second.
Mrs. Getzman. Were there any corrections? Would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Comments of board members. Mrs. Getzman, would you like to begin?
Oh, thank you. Welcome to everyone. This is always a fun time when we get to meet and greet lots of our students. And this time of year is fun because we're seeing lots of rewards of hard work of our students and teachers. And it's nice that we're able to recognize both in the classroom and sports and in music. So we're doing something right because the awards keep coming in. So congratulations to all the recipients, and thank you parents for your hard work. And I know it's lots of miles and hours. So thank you on behalf of the board as well.
Thank you. Ms. Regola-Dye?
Yes, thank you. And thanks everybody for coming tonight. And echoing what Mrs. Getzman said, it really is a partnership between the schools and the community, all of you, to create an atmosphere of learning for our children. So we deeply appreciate everyone's participation in that goal. Thank you.
Mr. Thompson?
And again, welcome. And I would say that I guess later on this evening, we're going to get to hear about some of you who attended the OSBA conference, for which unfortunately I wasn't able to go, but the circumstances that kept me from going, I was able to capitalize on it to some degree because I was able to go to the middle school to the veterans recognition, which was an unbelievable event. And there's a lot of things going on in the school district that we can all be very proud of. The thing that I'm disappointed in, I can't get to all of them. But I will say that was a tremendous event that day, and my congratulations and applause to those who put that together.
I'd also like to welcome everyone this evening. What a lovely group you are. So good to see all of you. This has been a very busy month. We've had a very enjoyable choir concert, an outstanding orchestra concert. NHS induction was this week, so it's been a very busy month. And as Mrs. Getzman said, we get to recognize some very special people this evening who've worked really hard and deserve the accolades that they've received. So with that, we'll move ahead to our commendations and communications.
Well, I too would like to welcome you. This is kind of our traveling tour, so to speak. We've been going around to all the different buildings. Tonight we get to come to the high school, and this is really kind of a cozy atmosphere, so we welcome you to Mount Vernon High School. I would also like to extend to each of you maybe a pre-Thanksgiving well wishes. We have so much to be thankful for, and I think you'll hear about some of that tonight. This is a pretty special night in the fact that we get to recognize some outstanding student accomplishments, and so we're excited that we have a number of students here tonight. The National Merit Scholarship Program is a very, very prestigious scholarship program, one in which is so very difficult to achieve. 1.5 million students across the state of Ohio and the nation, almost 22,000 high schools take this PSAT test. And so they take only the top 1%. And they recognize that 1%. How many is that? That's 50,000 students out of the 1.5 million achieve this level of recognition. 2/3 of that 50,000 get what's called a commended student, all right? And so that is just an incredible accomplishment in and of itself. And then there are 16,000 students who qualify for a semifinalist. And that really makes you the elite of the elite. These are special students. Parents, you ought to be incredibly proud, and I know you are. What we're going to do is I'm going to read two different proclamations, one for our semifinalists and another proclamation for our commended students. We've asked them to come to the podium here, and we'd love for you students to introduce who has come with you. If you've had parents or anybody that's come with you, just to quickly recognize them, because we know it takes a whole family to achieve something like this. But the other really unique thing that we do in this piece is we ask our special students, our outstanding students, to recognize that teacher that really has made a difference. And we know what a special group of teachers we have, from kindergarten all the way up through 12th grade. And so we have some teachers here tonight too that I know our students will get a chance to recognize. Our students, we have a rose for you students that you can share with your special teacher. So we want this to be that kind of a special event. So with all that being said, let me start with our semifinalists. So this is our one student who is a semifinalist, still very much into the scholarship phase of this National Merit Scholarship program. So whereas the Mount Vernon Board of Education is committed to providing learning opportunities which enable each student to achieve maximum personal growth and academic development, and whereas qualifying as a National Merit Scholarship semifinalist represents mathematics and verbal scores on the preliminary scholarship aptitude test in the top 1% of over 1 million students across the United States. And whereas being named a National Merit Scholarship semifinalist is one of the highest academic achievements that distinguish exceptional high school students in the nation. And whereas the 2019 National Merit Scholarship semifinalist from Mount Vernon High School is Herbert Meyer. Come on up, Herbert. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of Mount Vernon, Ohio acknowledges this student for the honor he has achieved, expresses its appreciation for the recognition he has brought to Mount Vernon High School, and wishes him success in life's future endeavors. Presented this 19th day of November, 2018. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah, obviously, like, it's an honor. I know all of the students that earn, like, these recognitions. They put in a lot of hard work. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to thank the people that gave me the opportunity. So my dad, with the nice beard, sitting next to my brother Archie, and my mom. My dad and my mom have fostered me in a really great, like, learning environment. They said they're proud of me. I'm proud of them for giving me, like, these opportunities. They've really just given me all the opportunities I've been able to have. And then we have my little brother Clark, my girlfriend Kylie, and my sister Io. So thank you, Io, and all of you. And then, yeah, they've obviously done a lot for me. Also, I can say as, like, board members, I've had, like, really good opportunities here. Naturally, I wouldn't go to Mount Vernon, this school district, but I go here because of all the opportunities the AP classes provided, the great teachers, I'm taking classes at the NAS this year, which is just, they're all really good opportunities, and I want to thank you a lot for those too. And as far as teachers, I've had a lot of really good educators. Several of them are actually here, who I owe a lot to, and they've given me a lot, both to put towards this test and to put more towards me as a person. And so all of them I can thank, but really I want to thank Mrs. Keaton for a couple reasons. First off, educationally and as far as, like, an academic standpoint, I had her coming in 6th grade English. Like a lot of middle schoolers, I was really, really unruly. She can attest to that. Anyone that knows me, even this year, could probably attest to that. But yeah, I don't know how she put up with it. And in that, and I also had her freshman year for English, and I really got a lot out of that. Academically, it was honors English. I learned a lot from it. I also learned my boundaries and where exactly I can go. She can attest to that too. There were multiple times when I definitely pushed some boundaries of where I could go as, like, humor, if you can call it that. Maybe more just disruption. But I learned a lot from that, and I've come a long way since then. and I've certainly become a great student because of all of my teachers. But Mrs. Keaton has also given me, I was kind of scared after those, because after being that student, I was scared that to approach her. So for several years, I don't know if that's too direct, but after 6th grade and freshman year, I thought I'd burn some bridges, and so I went into the rest of my high school. I was kind of single-minded. I kind of had one in academically, and I really focused academically, but I really didn't do a lot for the community, and I wanted to. And Mrs. Keaton offers that with Key Club, which I know that she is an advisor for. And eventually, senior year, I got back around to it, and I came on my knees and I said, "Please take me back." And she said, "I forgot that you even ever did anything wrong." So I've learned a lot this year. Not only academically, I've gotten a lot, but this year, with some of the Key Club events that I've done, it's helped me not only academically, but as a person, and to discover more than just obviously in school, which is a ton, but as a person and the place I can have in the community and in the school, in addition to the just academically. So with things like helping, I organized a 5K to help provide wells for people in Africa. I've done things. I've worked at Father's Table, has been big for me, to help provide and serve food to those who may not have it. And I really just want to thank Mrs. Keaton because she's given me the opportunities to academically, and then to become, to recognize more of myself too, and to really become more of who I am. And that's also helped me a lot with breaking out of just becoming like the single-minded person into becoming my full self, academically and otherwise. So I want to thank her a lot. Thank you. Was this the marker that you had used in 6th grade to note on the board when we were bad?
Yes. I had to wear it daily because they were so bad. It actually, can you say what the acronym is, please?
CACROT.
Do you want to tell them what that was for?
It was for Kids Against Keaton's Reign of Terror.
So then I turned it into Keaton Against Kids' Reign of Temerity. And temerity was the first vocabulary word of their freshman year. So there you go. There's a token.
Thank you.
Our next set of students, we have 4 students, 3 of whom could be here tonight, who are being recognized as commended students. Again, that top 1% in the nation, we have a proclamation for you as well. Whereas the Mount Vernon Board of Education is committed to providing learning opportunities which enable each student to achieve maximal personal growth and academic development, and whereas qualifying as a National Merit Scholarship commended student represents mathematic and verbal scores on a preliminary scholarship aptitude test in the top 5% in this case of over 1 million students from across the United States. And whereas being named a National Merit Scholarship commended student is one of the highest academic achievements that distinguish exceptional high school students in the nation. And whereas the 2019 National Merit Scholarship commended students from Mount Vernon High School are Victoria Baker, Charles Mayville, Josephine Noonan, and Mehmet Schubel. I'm going to have our ladies start this off, so if we could have Victoria come on up here first, and we'll let her introduce those who may have come with her, and introduce her teacher as well. Congratulations.
Alright, so I didn't realize this rose thing would be happening, so I'll see you. I would like to recognize my parents, and my dad's not here but at this moment, but my mom and my brother are here with me, and both of my parents have supported me a lot in my whole life and everything that I've done, and especially with my academic achievements. My mom has done a lot to always encourage me and make sure that I am working hard, and thank you so much for that. And Jingwei. And I'd like to recognize Mrs. Hofferberth too for being a great teacher. I had you for 2 years and I really enjoyed that time. And you were very kind and helpful to me when I was struggling sometimes. And I enjoyed the demos and the fire. And I thought class was always fun because you were so enthusiastic. So even when I wasn't the most excited, you always made me a little bit more excited. And the whiteboards were also very fun, and it helped me to be able to write things out myself and explain it to everyone else kind of in my own way. And thank you so much, and I'll miss you when I'm gone.
It's now my honor to recognize Josephine Noonan. If you'd come up, please.
I came here with my parents, John and Tanya Noonan. They have almost gotten 3 children to college. I'm the last holdout, but I'm going soon. Yeah, they're always, since I was little, they would read to us before bed and make sure that we have everything we need physically and emotionally and mentally, and that's great. And I want to recognize Mrs. Hofferberth again, because she's so great. And in classes, Think I said, even if we were being really pessimistic and oh, we can't learn this, it's so hard, Mrs. Hofferberth would always be yes, you can, look at this, it will be easy someday. And we'd be okay, I'll believe you for now. So thank you so much for that.
And now it's my honor to recognize Charles Mayville.
Hi, I'm Charlie, and with me came my parents over there. We'll just say that they were very encouraging, because I wasn't exactly the most motivated person, especially when it came to studying for these kind of tests. There was a lot of forced study hours, but it all paid off, and I like to thank them. And the teacher I'd like to thank is Mrs. Berensmeyer. I've had Mrs. Berensmeyer for 4 years, all for Latin. But the first time I was in Mrs. Berensmeyer's class, she sort of scared the living daylights out of me. She has sort of a speech that she gives to all of her first-time students in their first day of class about all the things they cannot do, and that takes up all class. It's kind of a nightmare. But through the years, I've learned really to love Mrs. B and the way that she taught. She really makes learning fun, which is something that isn't always connected together and makes learning difficult. But she expanded my horizons and made school worthwhile. So thank you.
All right, we certainly want to again congratulate our students. We're going to take just a few minutes break here. And by the way, Mehmet's name, who was up here but wasn't able to come with us tonight, certainly I want to recognize him, if for name only, for this accomplishment. Because when I hear some of you guys and your struggles to be the top 1% across the nation, I'm like, wow, I was really bad, I guess, when I was in school. You are certainly to be commended. And we want to just take a moment now to get a chance to congratulate you as board members. We have some punch at the back. We have some cookies that are prepared. We'd like to maybe just take the next 10 minutes and then we'll reconvene our board meeting. But we want to get a chance just to introduce ourselves to you and congratulate you a little personally. So we'll go ahead and we'll break for that now.
So thank you for coming tonight. On behalf of the staff administration of the high school, I'd just like to thank the Board of Education for all the many wonderful things that you allow us to do. And I think that's one thing. Hopefully tonight we get a little bit of a snapshot of some of the many different things that we have going on here at the high school. We're going to look at a new program this year. We're going to look at 2 programs that have been around but have evolved, some newer things for our students. And we're also going to just take a look at one of the many things that we like to do in terms of courses, and that's offer new opportunities. And I think that we have an opportunity once again to bring a course to our students that we've had as a club this year, and we're looking to evolve that maybe into a more regular class. And so the first group I'd like to bring up tonight is our Global Scholars Group. I'm going to ask Mr. Totcheff to come up and introduce our students. This is year 2 for our Global Scholars Program, and we actually have 4 teachers that are leading our students through this process. We have Mr. Totcheff, who has taken the reins with not only the nuts and bolts of making sure things are lined up for the students' activities, but also making sure the kids are getting their assignments done and those things that go along with the program. We also have Mrs. Hooley, Mr. Fetters, and then Ms. Bishop, who help lead our students. So I'm going to introduce Mr. Totcheff. He's going to talk a little bit about the program and then introduce our students.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. All right, well, thank you for having us here tonight. I really have to say I appreciate working for a school district that values global education. For a long time, we've been taking international trips, something that I love, but we're able to take it a bit further now. So we have started, this is our first year with students. Last year we were in a planning phase, and this year we've started it. It's called the Global Scholars Diploma Program. It's hosted by the Columbus Council on World Affairs. And it's a 3-year program. We started with our sophomores, and so they do sophomore, junior, and senior year. Throughout the year, each student has to go to, or we as a group go to 4 face-to-face events, normally at Franklin University. However, the last one we had global careers as its theme, and so we went to the Honda plant in Marysville, which was a phenomenal opportunity for the students. So they have their 4 face-to-face events where they really dive into many global issues. And then here at the high school, we have enrichment experiences that we really want to build on that, right? We don't want them just to go to an event and call it a day, right? We really want them thinking about global issues and delving into the content. So this year, as I said, was our first year with students, and we have 20 phenomenal students in this program this year. We've been to 2 face-to-face events, and I want you to know that they have represented Mount Vernon City Schools with class. They have engaged in the process. They look the part, they sound the part, and really have represented us well. So with that in mind, I have selected 3 of them to speak about the experience today, just kind of what they like about it, what they appreciate about it. And so with us is Miki Wall, Grace Zoldak, and Jordan Schisler. Ladies, you can come on up, and I will give the mic to them. All right.
So kind of when we were talking together about what we were going to say at this meeting, we kind of focused on 3 main points that we really appreciate about the program. And
so one of them were just like the social aspect of like what Global Scholars did for us. When we go, obviously there's like kids from all over Ohio, and it gives us a good opportunity to meet other kids that are interested in like things that we are, and just like for leadership opportunities, we are in like tables, and each table can speak out about like the issue we were talking about, like in front of everybody. And for people that don't have the opportunity to do that a lot, it helps us work on like public speaking or just getting like comfortable like talking to big groups of people.
Another one was the enrichment experiences. They give us opportunities that we normally wouldn't have. For example, one that I went to was the Columbus Crossing Borders Project, which was it integrated like immigration into art, and like it had like experiences where you could talk face to face with people who had immigrated into America and their struggles. And it was an experience that I probably wouldn't have chosen to go to, but it was one that I'm very glad that I did, because it taught me a lot about like struggles that immigrants have and like reasons that they have come and like things that we should be doing to make their experiences better.
And another thing that we were talking about is kind of the opportunities that you get throughout this program and the face-to-face events and the enrichment experiences. As Mr. Toshev said, we went to the Honda plant, which was very interesting because you got to go to like their museum and see the history of Honda, and you got to kind of interact with really their technology, their kind of, yeah, if you've seen like a Honda commercial, like the robot that they had one of those there, like their robotic arms and stuff. It was cool. And then also we got to talk with business associates from AEP, L Brands, BMW, and also Honda, and kind of talk about their careers. And they told us about their careers, and kind of to get us interested in that field, or like how to apply our skills into a field that we want to go into. And also the enrichment experiences here, it's to open your eyes up to global issues, but also it's kind of interesting to learn about just like kind of the slight differences about different cultures. Like I went to one with a guy with Jamaican heritage, and he talked about how in Jamaica time is kind of different. Like he said his mom could talk on the phone for like hours, but people here, they're busy, they gotta go. But in Jamaica, they don't really worry about time that much.
And to build on what Jordan said, one of the things that was helpful to me is I knew I wanted to go into some sort of like global career. So when I was able to talk to people from different fields, they told me about like engineering, how you can apply that to be a global career, how like journalism works. So they help you take like what you like to do in school and apply that to make it a global career, and they show you how like the paths to take or colleges to go to and things like that.
And then for me, I don't know what I want to do. So we also got to talk to a college student who's at the Ohio State University, and she's traveling abroad to study, and she like told us about like opportunities that she had and like how like doing that sort of experience kind of opens your eyes, and how like you don't have to completely know what you want to do, but like you can figure it out on the way, which was really cool.
And also one last thing on like sort of the social level, like at our last face-to-face event, which we went to last Wednesday, I got to see like one of my friends that I haven't seen since 4th grade. She moved away. And also you get to see like people that you have played soccer against, and it's kind of like you're mad at them on the soccer field, but here you're just talking about global issues. Or like at basketball games or something. So that's fun.
All right. Thanks, ladies. I'll point out quickly that for during the first 2 years of the program, they're being exposed to a lot of different experiences during which they're thinking about global issues that they're passionate about. And the third year, which I love, is their year to design and implement an action project. And I think that's something we all want to strive for. Sometimes it's not enough just to feel strongly about things going on in our community and in the world, but also to take action to make the world a better place. And so that's where these fine students are heading. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Next up, I'd like to invite Mr. Scatella to come forward and talk a little bit about Film Club.
How's everyone doing tonight? Good. Thank you so much for having me to share with you what's going on in my classroom this year and what we can hope can blossom into something a little bit more better. Excuse me, sorry. He's really tall. So over the summer or at the end of last year and over the summer, I began having conversations with Mr. Ashbrook about potentially having a film club where after school I could have students come into my room and I could show them classic films such as Citizen Kane or James Cameron's Aliens, and really dissect those films apart and give students a little bit something a little bit more to say than, oh, I really like that movie just because it was awesome. You know, I'm teaching students right now to dissect films such as, and looking at cinematography, editing, camera angles, and props, and how they all have meaning in a scene. So that's something that's just a few things that's going on in my film club. And the idea came up, what if we made this into an elective? When I was in high school, one of my all-time favorite classes, and part of the reason why I wanted to become an English teacher was I had a teacher by the name of Mr. Kovac, and he taught a class called World Literature, where it was a writing class where we would watch movies and we would write reviews, we'd interpret them, we'd analyze them, we'd have discussions about them, and then we'd write papers about them. And I think that just would be a wonderful idea to bring to the Mount Vernon High School. Mr. Ashbrook expressed that he has also taught a similar class and they were doing very similar things. And obviously that was a while ago for me, about 10 or 15 years ago. I don't know how long ago it was for him, but we'll assume it was more current than mine. Some of the things that we envisioned as we were talking, doing was some of the topics that they could write about would be the inner workings of the filmmaking process, how science influences filmmaking, and just how social commentary and social issues influence storytelling in general. We'd like this to be an elective in our school. That way students can go out into the world and sound a little bit more intelligent when they're discussing movies and film. Long-term goals for this elective that we would like to see is creating a podcast where I would host, and each week a student would come in and they'd take one of their favorite films and take information learned from class and basically discuss and talk about it through the podcast and get our name out there in a different light than it already is. Also, we'd like to maybe reach out to the senior citizen community and host movie days either on a Sunday or Saturday afternoon where we'd have a student study a classic film that our senior citizens might have remembered from their childhood or from their young adulthood, and come in and have our students teach them about the film, how it was made, what went into it, and things like that. And finally, we would like to also start a short film process where students would be making their own short films and present to the community at large. Any questions? All right.
Exciting. Yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad that you said that, Dr. Bennett. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay. Does it have to go off of this? Okay, the last presentation for the high school tonight, I'd like to take the opportunity to invite Mr. Kirkhope and Mrs. Mather up. We have a unique partnership with the Educational Service Center in that we have a couple educational service center units that are housed in our building. And over the last couple years, we've merged two philosophies of programming into one, and really have created some unique opportunities with our students with disabilities. And so I've asked Mrs. Mather and Mr. Kirkhope tonight to come and talk about Transition U, which is our ESC program that serves not only Mount Vernon High School students, but students in other districts. But Mrs. Mather, who's our multiple disabilities teacher, and just how they've constructed their classroom to work on job readiness and prepare students for life after high school.
I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody for coming. This is a very exciting time for my class as we've evolved a lot in the last couple of years. This is my third year here at Mount Vernon. That was homecoming Friday. We shared a lot of school spirit. And this year, for the first time, the football players have welcomed a couple of my kids onto the field with them. So that partnership has been very good for these guys as well. They look forward to that experience. So those are a couple of our big opportunities. I got to participate in the pep rally, be on the field during football games and such. So Okay, so this year is the first year we've moved classrooms. We were originally in a classroom with a kitchen and a bathroom attached to it. We have moved classrooms this year and kind of moved things around. So we have our academic classroom. This year, this space allows us to have a typical academic high school environment where these guys it looks like a regular high school classroom. They're not just sitting in a room. That was before school started, so it was a lot cleaner. Now we have moved, this is room 238. This room has everything you can imagine in it. We have OT, PT, and speech all use this room for their therapies once a week or multiple times a week. We have adaptive art, which is a new program that started last year, where the ESC teacher comes into my class, so my kids get a regular art class. And then we have a daily living skills space. I do want to thank Mrs. Rose for finding the money wherever she found it this summer to be able to help me purchase a lot of the items that we have for that environment. We were able to set up roughly 50 different skills for daily living activities, whether it be folding clothes, getting an apartment stuffed together, 2 fully furnished kitchens. So those kitchens have everything you can imagine. We wash dishes, we cook, we do all kinds of things. We have some of the skills I brought here where we match shoes to put on shelves, we match silverware for restaurants, you name it, I've probably found it. So this allows us to separate that room. And then we also have our office skills vocational lab, also known as the Watergate room. It's got shredders, it's got computer skills where we work on resume building, looking at how to read an email, how to search on the computer, filing, and those types of things. And this room we use together. The differences between my program and Mr. Kirkhope's is that my kids are students 9 through 12. All of these students have academic courses. They take the exact courses that would be needed for a high school diploma. But all of our lessons are built off of the Ohio Extended Standards for Learning. They have recently been revised in the last year and just became live in September. And they're vertically and horizontally aligned. So every every learning standard has an extended standard, and that's what our alternate assessments are based off of. So we do academics and we do the vocational skills. And then we have some kids that do inclusion. I have a large group of students that do inclusion PE class, so they're with the typical peers in PE. It's led by the PE teacher, and then the PE teacher, who is amazing, has also taken small groups of my students during Hive. So they're also getting the opportunity to go work with other kids as well. And then we have 1 student at the Career Center for half a day. Next year, that will move to 2 students. And then we have 1 student in women's choir and 2 students who are taking business basics. So we're slowly starting to get them integrated out into classes, and we're constantly exploring more options for those opportunities. So this is some of our student work. We recently read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So they had to pick their favorite character and then talk about their favorite character. Some of them were really funny. We had Oompa Loompas and Veruca Salt. So they really had to look at these things, and they loved it. It was 6 weeks of time where it was a lot of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but we got through it. And then we watched the 2 movies and then compared them. Yes, they had to create their own. So in the movie, the Prince Pondicherry had built a palace out of chocolate. They had to create their own palace out of their favorite food. So hence McDonald's as a palace. And then we have science experiments. This happens to be our rock cycle lab, where we use starbursts to learn about the exact rock cycle. We work in small groups. I have 4 aides in my classroom, 3 one-on-ones, and then a classroom aide. So we're able to really break up into groups and really work with these guys on the activities that we do. And then we have hands-on symmetrical math. This was a fun, messy experiment where they got to learn about symmetry and how symmetry actually works. And then vocational skills. So this year we're doing our vocational arts class. During these vocabulary lessons, we're working with the Edmark Functional Vocabulary Program. And these are all life skills words. And then we do a series of activities with them, working on independent skills and employability skills. Most of these are set up in task boxes, things I want them to do independently and not me having to teach them to do every step of the way. So that's the goal. Here are some of the activities. We have matching socks and folding socks, which is a task, and then putting clothes on hangers as well. We did the iron bead activities, which is good for fine motor skills. They learned how to iron and those types of things. And then we have our cooking activities. We do have a gamut of kids in the class. I have some kids that are readers that are able to do skills, and I have some students who are just looking at interaction. So we have a student there this is the best time of day for him because he's in his moon chair and gets to have a blast. And then we made pizza, which is always an all-time favorite. And then these are more of our job skills tasks where they have to match, build hotel, like shampoo, conditioner, those types of skills. And then my husband grudgingly built tools activities where they had to learn how to use screwdrivers, hammers, wrenches, things like that. So he wasn't excited, but he did it. There's more of our activities. And then those are the videos. Sorry. That's okay. These are 2 activities of students that are working on skills. The first student, the girl on the far side, is deaf and has left side paralysis. So a lot of these skills are very difficult for her, but she gets so excited when she gets it done. And then the student on the right is learning how to use a screwdriver, which is also another task. So if you want to show one of them, it doesn't matter. They're not very long. Okay, sorry. And then how we work together. So Mr. Kirkhope and I, this is his also almost 3rd year. So we start talking about transition to either his program or the Career Center about junior, senior year. And we do observations and shadowing. We work on relationships. All of my students know who he is. All of my students know who his aides are. And then we communicate with the parents. We try and do social activities together. We try and continue that to build that partnership, knowing that some of our students will be going to his program after they leave me, sadly.
Thank you, Jess. Once again, my name is Chris Kirkhope. I am the teacher for the Transition U program. As you can see up here, we are run by the Knox County Educational Service Center. We're housed right inside, actually just right here down at the end of the hallway, right next to, like Jess referred to as the Watergate room, where lots of paper is shredded in that room. So as you can see, what we talked about, this is probably the main funnel of students that you're going to see. We're going to get a lot of students from Centerburg, East Knox, our local districts. However, we pull from much further. So as you can see up here, the PN, that's Pickerington North. I have a student from Pickerington North. That Northridge, that's actually not Northridge Johnstown, that's Northridge Dayton, Ohio. That is Highland, and then that is East Holmes. So the benefit of my program is that it's very small and it's new and it's building, so not every district offers it. So if a family and a school district finds it that it is imperative for that individual to have that, then we find accommodations to where that individual can come and either live in a group home, spend time at the developmental center, or we can provide busing for them so when they come here. So we stretch further at what we much further than what most people think. The 3 main basic things that we focus on in our program, like Jess said, is we talk about post-secondary transition, integrated employment, and independent living skills. And essentially what that means is what we are going to do is when you graduate and you defer your diploma to come into my program, we're going to focus on what the best job and what the best avenue for you of when the day before you turn 22 to then go out into the community, whether that's working in a sheltered workshop, whether that's working part-time in the community, or whether that's living with your family. With integrated employment, what we do, the main focus is that we have a wonderful bond between Jess and myself. But then what we do is I go out and I actually build relationships with local businesses, which you'll be able to see here, and we actually work hand in hand. And so my students spend the morning going through a simulated day that what we most of us take for granted, that what we understand of knowing how to get up and take a shower and put clean clothes on. And so a perfect example is the first thing that they do when they come into our classroom is this right here is actually a hygiene chart that they have. So as you can see, is this one is completely written down. It says, you know, shower, wash your body, clean your face, all of those things that we already know what to do, but they go through there and they check mark these things. So if you click on the next one, just like in Mrs. Mather, where I have a high variance of complexity. I have some students who read and write very well, and I have others who are completely nonverbal and can't read or write. So the best way to do that is we do the exact same chart, but it's in pictorial form. So as you can see, the sun's going down in this one, so this is the evening, so we need to eat dinner, we need to take a shower, we need to wash our face, wash our body, and then make sure that we get a good night's sleep and go through that. And all they do is they check through these in the morning and in the evening. Then the next thing that we do is you can see that this portfolio right here, every one of my students, we have anywhere from 12 to 14 depending on what day of the week it is. And what we do is we go through systematic step-by-steps of reading and writing. And so we go through there, and all of the information that's in there is then set up in a manner that mimics a job application. So they're practicing writing skills and they're practicing typing skills, so that when it comes time for them to get a job, they have a portfolio to A, show a company in a business, but B, then they are able to go through and fill out that application. These are some of the things that we do every day. We talk about a kitchen setup, a lunch setup, how to pack our lunch, and then every day we talk about what we're going to do today. So today's Monday, and you can see that if you go back right there, we're going to go to Amato's Pizza and Baker's IGA. You can also see on there's something called CNN 10. CNN 10 is a news channel that's a 10-minute condensed news show that keeps our students up to date with current world issues, so that they are able to then, inside of the workforce, be able to communicate and converse with your coworkers. So you click on the next one. One of the main things that we do every morning is that's actually our kitchen right here. We prepare all of the local snacks for the elementary schools. So we go as far as we take the fruits and vegetables, we wash them, we cut them, we separate them, we bag them, we tag them, we fill them in the bag, and then we send them out and they go through there. And that's a completely hands-off application for my staff. So there's myself, I have and then I have 3 one-on-ones as well as a classroom aide. So we're hands-off. We teach them how to do that, but then once we get to about this time of the year, they pretty much know the rules. They know exactly how to get themselves ready, get all the equipment, everything going, and then we kind of usher the way through that. Once we get back, like I said, this is the 10-minute news show. So I created a worksheet that what it does is it shows application and comprehension with them. So the students that are able to write, they're able to sit down, and generally there's about five news stories that they talk about. They can write about that. They write about what's their favorite story of the day. And then there's a shout out answer where there's a trivia question, so they always have to guess, and that's fun for everyone because you're asking you questions that 9 times out of 10 I don't even know the answer to. So, and then they end it with, the newscaster does like 35 seconds of just like funny puns of everything it's about, and we talk about it and you write it down, and then for extended thinking they can write a summary or opinion. Once we're finished with that, this is the bread and butter of the program. This is where we leave and we go into the community. So currently, these are the major people that we're working with. We work with Baker's IGA and Amato's Pizza on Monday, the Mount Vernon Movie Theater on Tuesday. We do all of the recycling for the high school here on Wednesday. Along with Wednesday, we actually are now teaming up with Mrs. Bandy every other Wednesday, and her students actually teach my students basic Spanish, so that when they're out in the community working, they're able to then conversate and help individuals who are Spanish speaking. Thursday, we go to the Salvation Army in the Escape Zone, and Friday, we go to CrossFit 1808. I went out and individually set all of these partnerships up. So as you can see, this is Baker's IGA right here. So as you can see, they have a hat and an apron on. So when they're in there, they look exactly like every other employee. And when we're in there, we are working directly with the management staff as well as the employees in there. So they they unload the truck, they stock all the carts, and then they take everything to the aisleway. And as you can see, they're stocking soda right now, which is some of their favorite parts. This is Wednesday right here, like I said. So in the process of emptying all of the recyclables, and then that's just the bin right out there. So they empty that out. They take these 2 giant bins, walk it around the entire school, upstairs and down, and they dump everything. We do it in a manner that doesn't disrupt the classroom and still keeps them busy. This right here, so on Wednesdays and Thursdays, when we're here, we do cooking inside of the kitchen area that Mrs. Mather was talking about. That's where we work with the stove and the oven. And then we also do crock-pot cooking. We take we also with our art teacher. She then helps me create an actual cookbook. So at the end of the year, they have a 52 recipe cookbook that they can cook via the crock pot and the microwave. So right there, that looks like something that it's got a lot of colors. I don't know what that was that day. Maybe fajitas, maybe something. Delicious. Yeah.
It smelled good, whatever.
Yeah, they smell good. So this one right here, this looks like a pretty basic picture that everyone sees. Is you see a baked potato and Brussels sprouts. But when we're at the Salvation Army, they actually have 5 microwaves there. So what I do when we do cooking there is I actually teach them how to cook breakfast, lunch, dinner, and desserts solely on a microwave. So if you go and you live semi-independently and you're in a group home and you don't have access to a stove, you can cook all your meals and you know how to do it through there. This is the Salvation Army, or this is the Escape Zone, excuse me. This is the Boys and Girls Club of Mount Vernon. And so what we do when we're there, so as you can see, they did baked beans and they did chili dogs that day. And then on the left, you can see they're actually making pizzas on tortillas. And so that's just marinara sauce. This is the Salvation Army. At the Salvation Army, what we do is we prepare all the hot meals every Thursday. We clean and organize everything there. We also unload the food truck, and we stock and organize and take care of the food truck. So that's them actually going through there and organizing everything. Fridays, my favorite part, because when I'm not here, I also coach CrossFit. And so this is the gym where they're at. So they learn how to cook. They learn how to clean the entire 5,500 square foot facility. But then when they're done, I run them through a simulated workout program. And so they actually get a little exercise with it. So as you can see, one of the things that you probably heard is that Mrs. Mather, we're calling her individual students. When you come to my program, you've deferred and you don't need academics anymore. It's not 100% fail-safe. We do sometimes have academics, and we learn how to modify through that and work with that. But when you come into my program, I don't want you to feel like you're a student. So you don't sit in typical desks. We actually sit at large tables and we work together like it would be in a sheltered workshop. And the very first day you come into the program, you become an employee of Transition U. So this is a pay stub that they receive. So as you can see, it's got all the job sites on where they work at. They have the opportunity to make up to $6 a day. That money is then classroom money that then goes to a classroom store where they're able to purchase things on a bi-weekly, bi-monthly, and quarterly basis. The other thing that we do is, since they are employees, is everyone gets the opportunity to become Employee of the Month. That is actually the piece of paper that we fill out. We take a picture of them, and that sits right outside here in the hallway, so the entire staff and student body is able to see that. So as you can see, we have the partnership between Ms. Mather and I, but the plan is actually more of like a 4-tier process. So the first one is the blended classroom, and that's where Mrs. Mather and I are working together, and then you work your way over into. And step 2 is that mock sheltered workshop. That's where we're going to take students who are going to be able to defer their diploma and still stay in my program, but they're not quite community ready. So we're going to use the shredding room and the application room where we're going to teach them how to shred paper, and we're going to build them up to when they can make the next step, which is Transition U. And then Mr. Stendeker and myself and the ESC are slowly working on the 4th step, which is Transition Beyond, where we want to take students who aren't quite sure what they want to do. They know they don't want to go to college. They know they don't want to go to a tech, and they want to start working. And so what we want to do is we want to basically give them those hard skills of going out and teaching them how to open up a bank account, teach them how to successfully go and fill out an application and do a job interview. So what we're doing is between the partnership of Mount Vernon City Schools, the ESC, and everyone is we're giving students with disabilities on an IEP that are all different varieties the opportunity to succeed and allow Knox County and Mount Vernon to continue to grow. So that's pretty much it. Thank you. I'm sure you guys have questions, but I don't want to keep you guys too long, so. All right.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. And so, just to wrap things up, once again, we just thank you for the many different opportunities that you afford our students. We're definitely work in progress, so we definitely have areas where we need to grow, and we're going to address those. But we definitely looking at what we can offer our students, just in terms of on campus, off campus, and throughout the community, is just the benefit of what kids have being here at Mount Vernon High School. So thank you.
No additions or deletions to our superintendent's report. Oh, I'm sorry. We need to check who's here.
Student government. We have student government report.
Is here.
Come on up.
How's Ann Thomas? And is Darcy here too? Yeah.
Hello, everybody. I would just like to congratulate my fellow peers real quick on their academic achievements. Well, just Herbie right now, but goes to everybody. Oh, these people are a lot taller than I am. So I will run through some of the events that are happening at the high school. And then if you need me to repeat any dates or times, I can do that after I just run through my list real quick so I don't keep you guys too long. First and foremost, wrestling. They have their annual Bad Apple Tournament, December 1st. What time is that, Ms. Nesbitt?
I guess the wrestling starts at 9 or 10.
Time to be determined. It lasts all day, so really just pop in whenever. The boys' first basketball home game is also December 7th. I believe that starts at 7 for varsity, and I think freshman starts at 4:45-ish. So anytime in that window that you would like to come and see our jackets, please come out. Girls basketball will be playing, I believe, at home against Marian Harding this Saturday. I don't have the date, but at 5:30. And then swim will have their alumni meet Saturday the 24th from 10 to 2, and that'll be at the Kenyon Athletic Center at Kenyon. And Honor Band had their concert tonight. It was from 7 to 9. NHS this past week had their induction. We inducted approximately 40 new students, which is 44 students, which is very exciting. We're very happy to see that club growing more and more each year. And bowling is at Ashland tomorrow at 4. Is that correct? Yes, tomorrow at 4. So if you want to take the hike up to Ashland to see our first bowling team have their match or game, or what would you call that? Their first bowling thing. Match, yeah. That will be tomorrow at 4. And then our FFA just earned bronze medal in their parliamentary procedure, which is just kind of like a competition against other FFA members, and so we're very excited about that as well. Does anybody have any questions? I kind of went through that pretty fast. Good? Okay, that's all.
Thank you for coming.
Oh yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Nesbitt.
We're all good. Right for Thanksgiving break, so.
Okay, thank you. And is
No
Mike here?
Wi-Fi.
No.
And we didn't have anybody sign up.
Okay, and there's no public participation. Now we're on to board items for approval, none, and superintendent's report.
All right, under superintendent's report, we have a number of items for information. The first is just if anybody wanted to share an OSBA highlight. We had OSBA Ohio School Boards Conference this past week or last week, and so just maybe anybody that had an exciting session or something that they wanted to share, it'd be a good time to share.
Well, I'd like to give kudos to our middle school presenters. They did an outstanding job, and several people, they talked about their PBIS program, which is for, as my husband he attended also, and he said, what does that stand for? It's Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports. And they were just so enthusiastic, and it was the next to the last session on the last day. So they thought maybe nobody would come or they'd have very few, and the room was full. It was, and they had good response, and I was just so proud of them. They just really represented us well and had good videos and pictures of the kids and all the things that they've done and how they've improved from last year when they started the program and what hasn't worked and what they tried to do new the next year. I also went to a really good session about dyslexia, and I didn't know that 9 to 20% of students in the population have dyslexia, and a lot of them may not even know it, but it's a small school district, Ottawa Hills, if you know where that is, near Toledo, and they presented and said how they gave an example of a student who had dyslexia and how she had struggled all through school. She's at Dartmouth now, so she did well. But how kids struggle, and what they did that was so interesting was they put a paragraph on the screen, and it had no spaces in it. So you had to figure out what it said without any words broken up. And at the end they said, now what was that about? And you realized that you were so focused on trying to figure out the words that you didn't comprehend the meaning. And the reason they used this illustration was to show how students who have dyslexia, this is how it is for them, how difficult it is. They're so focused on trying to decipher the words. So that was very meaningful, and they talked about the program that they have. I also went to a session on leadership, and I talked to Mr. Seed about it, but he already knows about it, so I guess I don't need to share. But it's the Ohio Leadership Advisory Council, and they have a website for teachers, and they have all kinds of free resources to help students to become better leaders, and for teachers as well. So they're free modules and webinars and all kinds of things. So we get lots of free resources at OSBA. So it was a good session. Very busy 3 days, but good. And I'm sure others have other things.
Anybody else have anything you want to share?
Yes, I'd like to just mention the middle school again. And what was so fascinating is behind me a lady from another school district. Whenever our teachers said something new, she said, "Oh, that is so cool. That is so neat." And you could tell that she was writing down these ideas. And after the session was over, I asked one of our teachers, are you less tired now with this program? And she's at the end of the day, and she said, not less tired, same, but with enthusiasm. And so whatever they're doing to help the children is helping our teachers. And that was really impressive. And then the Student Achievement Fair, I was able to go to that for a few minutes, and representing students from all over Ohio. And our people could have been great too, but it was reassuring to everybody the hundreds of public schools that are top-notch like Mount Vernon. And you can be reassured that we are succeeding, but it's thanks to a whole community. But, and I have some more things, but I'll save it for my legislative report.
I was able to go down on Sunday, was able to sit in on a session, and Trauma in the Classroom was the session that I sat in, and it was phenomenal. And it was just talking about that we have so many children that we ponder what is wrong, and we think that it's maybe a mental health issue or an ADD or ADHD, but it's 9 chances out of 10 it's not. It's something traumatic that's happened with these children, and we need to understand how that affects their learning. I would encourage Mr. Cedar and our administrators, now that we now have a new judge named, that we get in touch with Mr. Nixon and that we get him involved in our district, in our buildings, and helping him to understand the issues that we're facing at this point in time, and meeting with our counselors, our social workers, and kind of forming that relationship with him as soon as possible so that we can bridge some of those gaps. There was so much that we could go on. The interesting thing that I took out, one of the many things I took out of the session was that we think of these traumatic experiences for our children, but do we think about then how our teachers have to handle and teach to all these traumatic, and even our teachers sometimes can suffer from post-traumatic stress syndrome because of dealing with all of these issues in our classroom. And I think that sometimes we forget about the leaders in those classrooms and what they take away from the situations as well. So I think we need to pay close attention to our teachers that are helping lead this cause. So it was very interesting. It was a very good session. So.
I went to that one on the next day, and it was top notch.
Yeah, it was very good. So.
You know, I too was able to go to some more events on Monday, and I love to learn new things. The other thing that it can be so valuable is some of the things you go validate that we're doing some of the things that we hear so many wonderful things about. So that social emotional piece and the ACEs and the trauma kinds of things, those are things that we've been doing. So when you hear other schools talk so eloquently about it, it does validate. Probably the best session that I had was, like many of you, I was at the Veterans Day thing on the morning of Tuesday and raced from Mount Vernon back to Columbus so I could watch our group. And I walked in the back of the room with some other administrators back there and just felt like kind of a proud, almost like a proud father, proud papa, because our folks were engaging, they had them laughing, they just spoke so eloquently. And when you see a lot of people in the audience shaking their head or looking at their neighbor, we don't often see that in some of those meetings we go to. And they were truly engaged, and I think it was in large part because of the excitement and enthusiasm. So, you know, one guy said, "Hey, do you know where they're from?" And I said, "You betcha I know where they're from. They're from our place." And so that was kind of special. So.
And I also heard several people say it was the best session that they had attended, so that made us also feel very proud.
The second item for information here is our December board meeting, and so I'm asking the board here, it is December 10th, and we moved it a week ahead so that we would somewhat kind of avoid all of the many functions that go on in December, and yet we have, I counted 12 starting that week of December 10th, we have 12 concerts throughout the district. And wouldn't you know it, that we moved it back a whole week. We do have East has their program on December 10th, which is a Monday night. We could move it to 4:30. We are at Dan Emmett that week. And so obviously I want to make sure that, you know, we give Dan Emmett this kind of opportunity to share what's going on. We've been taking tours of the building, which we'll do after this meeting as well. But that would mean moving that meeting up to 4:30. The East concert is at 7 o'clock at Memorial Theater. Is there any sentiment among the board to perhaps adjust that, or, you know, would you rather leave it where we're at?
I guess those who work, you know, is that a problem? 4:30 would work. Would that work with you, Mr. Thomas?
On the 10th?
I'm fine.
I would like to be able to go to the East concert if that's possible.
So we'll move the December 10th meeting to 4:30. We will be at Dan Emmett, and there really is only one gathering spot there probably, and it's going to be in their gym cafeteria kind of an area. And so we'll make sure we get that out as a 4:30. We'll take our tour then afterwards. And then for some of us who are going to run off to see the East program at Memorial Theater, we can do that as well. Okay. And then the final thing I have under items for information, we have 2 readings of board policies. A couple times a year, our policymaker comes and shares with us revisions or updates to various policies. There's quite a list there of things to be looking over. I know Dr. Bennett has already started to look at some of those things. What I think I'm going to do, and I'll try to send it to you in an update, maybe we'll create a kind of a shared document of all of our questions that people may have, and then we can hopefully answer your questions as we work through that. So there's lots of policies there to take a look at. So between now and December, we'll have to get a chance to kind of dig in, and hopefully in the board docs that you see, you'll see where the changes are. I mean, I think they're clearly delineated and marked. And these are folks that, this is their profession. They revise these and write them with lawyers' intent. And so I would look at it more from the standpoint of the content versus maybe some grammaticalness or some things like that. So lots of policies for you to review between now and the next time we meet. In December, we'll bring these up, and pending we don't have any ones that we're having some further discussion about, we'll approve those at the next board meeting. Okay, any questions about that process? We've done that for some time.
And we've been doing this for years, and I understand that. Although I didn't go to OSBA, I did go out and look at some of the material and how does other school districts deal with some of these policies. I did see one in there that is kind of an interesting approach to reviewing policies throughout the year. But does Neola then just hit us all at one shot with all of these, or is this just a unique circumstance?
A couple times a year they come and share with us new things.
Well, it's usually precipitated by some legislation that's changed or.
It sweeps across all of them. Right.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the one that you were referring to, I think some people have maybe put them into more user-friendly kind of language, as opposed to just grabbing that document and going, okay, where's the red, where's the strikeout, what does this really mean? Now Terry and I get to sit down and we listen to the presentation. I don't know if it would be good to somehow record those, or
I think the way in which you've got them lined out and everything is good. I understand when legislation then dictates maybe more broad sweeping things, but I serve on another board, which is nonprofit. It's kind of interesting, the comparisons, what drives their policies and how they review them, and it's more they're more chunked out, if you will, throughout the year. So thank you for clarifying, because I see that opportunity probably doesn't exist here, but.
If there's a way we could make them a little bit more easy to understand, certainly
Well,
would be.
it's really helpful to see the changes in bold. And
Yes, it is.
find out. I mean, there was a point in time where we just received the policy. There were, you didn't know where the changes were. You had to read the whole thing, which
Right.
some of them, are very lengthy. So this is very helpful.
Right.
All right, so I do have a number of items for board approval in the superintendent section. Number 1 are some home and community school students' participation, pending all the required paperwork. You can see there, middle school and a high schooler. And we also have a memorandum of understanding with foster grandparent program, kind of a senior companion program. These are senior citizens who will come and work in our various schools. And we certainly love that kind of collaborative effort. In the past, we've had a memorandum of understanding with individual buildings, and we really asked that they would come and we could approve it district-wide. And I know we have some foster grandparents working in several of our buildings right now. And we also have an RSVP program, I think, that is working here at the high school. There are 3 different kinds of senior citizens programs through this cooperation for the Ohio Appalachian Development. And, we'll continue to tap into those resources. It's a win-win in my opinion. And so we'll see how that continues to go. But that is a memorandum of understanding. So those 2 items for your approval.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve those items as read.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Gulladye. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Were there any questions? Would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Revoladi?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. The success, the first article, which is Dayton City Schools, is really a career tech program, so I thought we could maybe skip that, but essentially what they're doing is offering additional career tech areas, classes. And the second article is Springfield City students offering policy research and ideas to local leaders. And I thought this was kind of a neat, it's called Project Citizen. And a government teacher is the one who started this program. And the students research policies that they would like and things that they would like to change to improve their community. And then they actually meet with officials in Springfield City and Clark County and the judicial system. They all attend those student presentations and they actually grade them for the students. And the students have an opportunity to explain their ideas and why they think that would make their life a lot better. And one of the groups of students talked about the overdose problem, and I thought it was interesting from the students' perspective. They believe that Narcan should be limited to those students who abuse drugs because the cost to taxpayers is so high, and that the students should actually have to repay the city. So I thought that was interesting coming from students. This gives students insight into how participation in government can really lead to change and making things better. So I thought that was interesting. The Strongsville City students get lessons on medical careers. And this is a program from the Cleveland Clinic. And I got really excited about this because, as we know, healthcare is a wide open field and there's so many job opportunities in healthcare. But it was a face-to-face program, and they had a problem with scheduling with students in the schools, so they went to an online program, and they do a number of, you have to copy and paste the links if you were trying to, oh, you got them, okay.
Just takes forever to come up.
So they have an online hands-on program that opens the students' eyes to a wide range of opportunities. They interview individuals in various healthcare fields. One example they said was they take something like a blood sample and how it enters the Cleveland Clinic from a phlebotomist taking the blood all the way through everybody who touches that sample, and then until the pathologist analyzes it, so that they see that you don't have to just be a doctor or nurse, but you can be a radiologist, and all the different job opportunities that are available in the health sciences and medicine. I thought this would be great for our high school. It's all free. However, they limit it to 300 students in Northeast Ohio, but I was happy to read that they have licensed this material and they're willing to give it free to any other hospital, or I thought of the mental health department maybe, and if you had some licensed program that would be willing to share it, we could use it. They also have available twice a month from 9 to 10 interviews with professionals, and teachers can just click into that and view those. So lots of free resources out there. Lorain County, I was going to skip that again, that's Career Tech. And then the last Career Technical I thought was pretty interesting because it has a focus on robotics and drones and mechatronics, which is a word I hadn't heard before. And this is in a regular high school. It's not a career tech center, but it's Duval High School near Washington, D.C. in Maryland. And They have 100 to 150 students who apply in 8th grade to be part of this program. They build rockets, planes, and robots, and then they use flight computers and 3D printer models to create mock airfields. And then they actually use their drones and fly them over the airfield. And the reason this has gotten so much headway is because of NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, which is nearby. So they have a real connection, and they're desperate for people to work for them. So they've encouraged this high school to go on in this field. And I know we have local industries that are desperate for workers as well. So if there would be something that we could do even at the high school that would encourage our kids, that would be great. And then the research article in depth is on fostering a school culture that supports teen development. And they pointed out some interesting research about the MIND, International Mind, Brain, and Education Society. At their research conference, they suggest that educators teach students to develop healthy relationships and help them recognize the benefits of taking positive risks, such as tackling difficult projects. One of the things they point out in adolescence is that our students, that's a second critical window for them to develop skills to regulate their emotions. And after childhood, the brain development, then in the teen years, they focus on making strong connections. And it says we need adolescents to hang out in this sensitive period, and all that allows to develop. In other words, we tend to rush kids through this period and let them grow up too quickly, and they need to really, I thought it was neat the way it said hang out in this period of development. Throughout their life, students get steadily better in inhibitory control, the ability to avoid distractions and stay focused amid changing situations. In an Education Week article, according to Sparks, the prefrontal cortex, and I'm reading this because it's pretty specific, an area of the brain associated with attention, decision-making, and self-control develops rapidly in the mid to late teens. And teenagers are better than children and nearly as good as adults on focusing on unemotional tasks or situations. The problem occurs when, as you mentioned, trauma or emotions. That pattern of development looks very different in emotionally charged situations. So their point is that we need to be helping students to deal with these. Teenagers who participate in computer-based training to improve their ability to avoid distractions for 15 minutes a day for 5 weeks showed significantly better attention and focus than students who studied in a control group. So there are some things we could do to help students focus better and on their emotional development as well. So. And I think the last point was well made. Adolescence is a developmental period in which you find incredible improvement of inhibitory control. You traditionally have no inhibitory control training during adolescence, and that's very true. We don't really train our kids then. That's something that they really need to learn. So thanks for bearing with me. That was the least
We have no items for board approval in this section tonight, so we'll move on to fiscal services.
Okay.
Okay, I don't have any items for information. We can look at the financial report. Get that open. Slow.
I don't know why it takes so long. Shouldn't, it's 7 o'clock at night.
Right.
This is the typical report. There isn't anything real unusual in it, but I did want to go over a couple of pages here. There we go.
I wonder if this is how slowly the tests are put on computers for the kids.
There we go. So there's the cover, obviously. If you want to scroll down to the next page, this is just our reconciliation we do at the end of each month, and you can see, if you roll on the way down to the bottom, you can see that we have $11 million at the end of October. Up where is it? Oh, other investments, where it says U.S. Bank, that's our investments that we have through this Meter Corporation. A gentleman from that company is going to come and talk to us either next month or January, depending on what works out better with our meeting. But they have, as you can see, about almost $5 million of our money now, and they're really, really helping us make quite a bit more interest with that. So he'll explain to you how that's working and how that's different than what we were doing in the past. But anyway, there's $11 million at the end of October. If you go to the next page, this is where we compare to, we have the forecast there in the brown down the middle, and then on the side you can see the percentage that we've collected at the top. That's the revenues, and then at the bottom, of course, is the expenditures. We are about a third of the way through the fiscal year, so you'll see on the revenues, the third line, the fourth line, the fifth line, or the sixth line, the seventh line are all around 33%. The other three that you can see, the 43, the 49, 45, those are all tax related. And as you know, we get our taxes twice a year. So we've gotten part of the taxes for that would have been the July taxes, the first two items, the personal property and the general tax, and then the property tax allocation. So that's why those are higher. They're not 50% because even though it's the beginning of our fiscal year, it's the middle of the tax year. So when you folks get your tax duplicates in January, a lot of residents pay the tax for the whole year. Usually your bill has the whole amount that it has. So usually because that's the middle of our year, it's confusing, but 43-49% is about what we usually get. So you'll see that's why that is. The $200,000, if you remember, last year we loaned money to the PI fund to fix the rooftop units. This is our second payment back. The total was $875,000, so now we've paid back $200,000 of that. So that's revenue that goes back into the general fund. Paying ourselves back, but it's from a different fund. And then the 2.060, the other sources, that $96,000 that we've collected so far this year includes an $88,000 rebate from Bureau of Workers' Comp, which is a generous rebate that we get back from the state. And then also the rest of that is an E-rate rebate. It's not the whole amount, but that's a small amount that we got. And then if you move down to the personnel, there are expenditures. The personnel is the top, the salaries. That's not quite 30% because we have 3 pays in November, and we'll have 3 pays again before the end of the year. So it's not quite 33% yet because it's not quite the end of the year. The other items there, the one thing that's a little high is the supplies and materials and the capital outlay, but those, as you recall, the supplies purchases at the beginning of the school year are higher because the teachers are buying things for the classroom, and so our maintenance folks are stocking up on supplies and so forth. So as you can see, overall, that's right about where we want to be at this time of the year, 32.76% for our expenditures. And then the next page, speaking of our investments, I just went back and did these totals by month since the fiscal year began. In July, we got almost $13,000 in interest. In August was $15,000. September was $25,000, and October was $31,000 in interest. And those amounts and they'll vary because I called the guy and said, now these are kind of all over the place because these are mostly securities, which are like bonds that they're buying, or maybe to us it would be like a CD. And so they mature at different times. And they've tied up some of our money for a longer term because we can do that because we have a little extra. So in October, we had obviously some of the securities matured that ended up being $31,000, but $84,000 now, and with only 4 months into the year is pretty good. So, and he will come and talk to you about that. If you want to hear about yield curves and all that good stuff, he'll explain that to you. Sort of over my head too, but he'll explain it to us. And then that's really all on the financial report this time. We have donations, which I can read if I can scroll down here. 2 elementary students from Derek Paganini?
Paganini?
Paganini. Of 1,600 Nickelodeon folders. Donation to Twin Oak Elementary from CenturyLink Employee Giving of $35. To the Mount Vernon High School Library from Roger and Vicki Mara in honor of Bob Frost, who is the grandfather of head basketball coach Nick Kuhn. And that donation was, looks like maybe a book. Yeah, The Chase, How Ohio State Captured the First College Football Playoff. And then to the district from Siemens, television stands, wall mounts, DSS PC players, value total of $21,780. And I believe we have a memorial book. The title is Will You Be My Sunshine, in memory of David Ziegler, father of Dana Ziegler, who is a positive behavior support aide at Dan Emmett Elementary, and that will go into the Dan Emmett Library. That's all.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve those finance items as read.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Getzmann. Do I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Any questions on any of these?
I have just one comment. I think it's notable that while we hated to see Siemens leave our community, as they've had to kind of move at various stages, they've kept the schools in mind and have donated quite a few items to the district. And to see $21,000 worth of television stands, the television that we're using today is going to stay here at the high school. We used one similarly last week at Wigan Street. We left that one stay at Wigan Street. And some of these are all coming from Siemens. So we certainly appreciate that generosity.
Thank you for mentioning that. Anything else? Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Thompson? I'm sorry, Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Legislative liaison report.
Thank you. I did not have a link for you. I wanted to report on the legislative session that I went to at OSBA, and there were 3 guests there. And the first question that arose was concerning the alternative pathways to graduation for the 2018-19 school year. And we were told by the senator who is the chair of the Senate Education Committee that she would bet she's 99% sure that the alternative pathways will be extended and those students in that program will graduate. So it's 99.99% sure. So we're going to hold them to that. And in the Budget Financial Committee, in the past months, a bipartisan committee has met to discuss some of the following. What does it cost to educate a typical student in a typical town? And second, what is a fair share for state and local districts? There were multiple stakeholders participating, including some treasurers and superintendents across Ohio. And then HB 512 came back to rear its head, and they don't think that this bill will be resolved in the lame duck session. That's the one where they wanted to combine the Board of Education and the Jobs Program in Ohio. HB 343 is out of the Senate Ways and Means Committee. OSBA has already come out in opposition to that, and it would place a greater burden on school districts when a property owner challenges a property value. The bill could, and I emphasize the word could, open the door for property owners to lobby individual board members for favoritism. That's why they oppose it. And that's all I have on the legislation.
Thank you very much.
I will just say too on that, your first legislative idea or comment, we're glad about the 99%. I know working with Scott and with with Eric and Kathy, we made a decision at Mount Vernon City Schools to continue our path towards these alternative pathways with the idea that we thought that would happen. If we would not have done that, we would be waiting until they finally pass it, which might be too late for us to do what we've started out to do. So I hope that 99 becomes 99.9, that becomes 100%. So, we have a number of items for board approval. These are free facility requests, and you see a list of only 4 of those this time for various purposes. And then item 2, we have a resolution with Meta Solutions. It's a cooperative buying council that we use, and in this case, it's relative to natural gas service. So those 2 items for your approval.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve those 2 items as read.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mrs. Getzmann. Were there any questions? Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann? Yes. Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. And no student service. Okay. Personnel.
Okay, we'll go on to personnel. Items for information, we do have a revised contract for a following co-curricular position due to resignation of a full-time person. We've had 3 people kind of involved in the debate club kind of conversation. And unfortunately, we had Sarah Birchie decided that she was not able to complete those duties. So Glenn Payton is going from a half-time to a full-time. Jeff Gottke is, of course, doing that other full-time position. Had a big meet here this weekend, and so the debate club is up and running. So that's just items for information. It's just been adjustment there. Under items for board approval, you're going to see a number of resignations there, from debate club to head baseball coach to head cheer advisor. And then in item 2, you're going to see some employment pieces here. Noelle McCarty is coming to us as a social studies teacher. We welcome her. She's filling Jeff Gottke's position. And of course, we have some supplemental positions there for you due to some resignations above. Item C are substitute teachers. Again, are kind of common home instructors and some of those other extracurricular activities. So those items for your consideration.
I would entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I do have a question regarding a date that I thought maybe was under Noel's, where it says in August 2011. Is that 2018 or was it 2011 or do you?
Well, received her master's degree in 2018. She could have, or in 2011, she could have received her master's degree then.
Okay, I thought maybe since they were mentioning it.
I'm not
like
sure
it
why
just
we
happened,
mentioned it, but
maybe
it
we
could
did
very
that.
well be 2011.
Right, any other questions? Would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, classified staff.
Under classified staff, we do have one item for information there. It's a 30-day unpaid leave of absence to care for a child. And then item 2, or recommended items for board approval, we have just 2 items for your consideration. A resignation of a bus driver and then substitute employment, of course, pending favorable BCI2 and TV tests of Jennifer Marston. So those 2 items for your approval.
Okay, I would entertain a motion then to approve those 2 classified staff items. So moved. Thank you, Mrs. Getzmann. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. Do you have any questions? Would you call the roll?
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.
Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. And do you need executive session?
I don't have any need for executive session at this time unless the board has a need.
Any requests for it?
We might find ourselves needing a work session, perhaps. I know it's a crazy, crazy busy time, but perhaps sometime here in December, if not January, we might need to come together in a work session for some financial considerations and even some future planning kinds of things. So
Okay, I would entertain a motion then to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Second.
I will second that.
Thank you. And I think by consensus, we can agree to adjourn.
Okay, agree to adjourn. We're going to take a tour of the building. Hopefully you can stick around and Scott is going to show us the ins and outs of this unique facility. And we do have some things for board members around the corner here that might test your palate.